when I first started writing, it, it was a lot like my personal experience in relationships, let's say. So I spend an awful lot of time denying myself my roots. In fact, going on a journey away from it, as many people do, particularly in this the generation that I'm from, which is a 1 to 2nd generation. There's a kind of rebellion that happens. Everything is new, everything is exciting, and you're no longer part of a homogenous culture, and so you're looking outward all the time. And when I was writing, I realized that that's what consciously I was doing. I was consciously trying to avoid material and themes that had an element of Koreanness about it, as I mentioned earlier. But more and more, as I write, my writing has a tendency to be quite personal, very, very intensely personal. And when I'm doing that, I can't help but admit that so much of my makeup is a consequence of growing up in this country, Canada, as a Korean. And I'm a Canadian citizen, but the richness, the depth of the things that I could retrieve go hundreds and thousands of years back. And so when I'm thinking about, for example, the first moments of joy and how to express that in a child, I have to go back. I have to retrieve a memory that takes me back to a farm in South Korea. And as a result, all of the things around it, all of the tendrils that touch into those feelings, which includes, for example, watching my grandmother make kimchi with a bunch of village women, and you can't escape that. So my readers, and they're very small, but the ones that I do have, the responses I get, for example, through my literary blog or through people speaking to me having read it, the vast majority are not Korean. And so in part it's a generational thing. It has something to do with the fact that, for example, here in North America, only now, after 2 generations, are we beginning to see this movement, this shift toward the non-professional vocations, like the arts and writing and things like that. And the internet, of course, has opened up all different kinds of ways to explore your creativity. But there was a generation before where, my parents' generation, where everybody was a professional. There were accountants, there were lawyers and doctors and all of that. But what's become very clear, and what always becomes quite clear in that transition toward the 2nd generation of immigrants, is that the first generation stories end up not becoming told. And it's not that anybody takes responsibility for it, or certainly I don't. I don't think I have to tell the stories of my parents' generation, but so a lot of my stories do gravitate toward that. And at that point, I think we will see, as a Korean Canadian, more of an actively engaged reading audience for those stories.